Don't jump off the bandwagon. We've got 4 reasons why you should be optimistic, despite the loss that Longhorn football is going to deliver in 2025. It's coming up on today's episode of Locked On Longhorns. Intro.
You are Locked On Longhorns, your daily podcast on the Texas Longhorns. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in. You are locked on to the Texas Longhorns. I'm your host, BK Brad Kellner, Texas grad, Austin local, and longtime sports radio host here in the Lone Star State. Thank you for making Locked On Longhorns a part of your day every single day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Please like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and remember to leave a comment. That's one of the fastest ways to help us grow right here on Locked On, your team every day. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. We're going to dive into some wide receiver room conversation coming up. Also, a couple of Texas players who deserve more love from their week 1 performances. But first, let's move past all of the negative. And there's been a lot of negative since the clock hit triple zeros on Saturday. No, the Texas-Ohio State game didn't go the way that any of us wanted, unless you're an Ohio State fan tuning in to rub it in a little bit. Congratulations. But hey, it's a long season. Texas has 11 more games to play in the regular season alone, and the Longhorns still control their own destiny to win the SEC, and they still control their own destiny to win a national title. Coach Sark has kept a very positive tone all week long, from his post-game availability to his game week presser on Monday. It's a very different vibe around the Texas football program compared to the last Ohio State loss. And it should be, right? The last Ohio State loss ended your season. This one happened in week 1. You've got plenty of time to right the ship. And there are plenty of reasons why I believe that Texas will right the ship. And I've got 4 of them here in this segment. Number 1, the defense. It's the real deal. And they showed that on Saturday against one of the most talented offenses in college football. The Longhorns held Ohio State to 215 yards, about 3.8 yards per play. They held Ohio State to 4 for 14 on the money downs, 3rd and 4th down combined. They tackled really well. They stopped the run, even with lighter boxes. It's not like Texas had to put 7 or 8 guys in the box on every single play to prevent Ohio State from getting its ground game going. No, Texas with lighter boxes had no problem winning up front. They had no problem against the run game as well. They only had a couple of bad plays in the entire game, right? One of them was the Colin Simmons hands to the face penalty. The long Carnell Tate touchdown, Jalen Gilbo got beat, actually recovered, made a really good play on the ball. Carnell Tate had to double catch it. Sometimes you tip your cap. It's former 5-star, future NFLer. Hell of a play right there. But you can count on one hand the amount of bad plays that this Texas defense made in the game on Saturday. They did more than enough for the Longhorns to win. And this is just a continuation of where Texas was defensively last year. Despite the loss of 5 starters, including the Thorpe Award and a couple of high draft picks a few months ago, this Texas defense is legit. About 23 players saw action in the first game against Ohio State. So not only are the starters good, but Texas has some serious depth there as well. They feel good about what they have. Again, the defensive line, I thought, held its own. Good linebacker play. The secondary kept Jeremiah Smith in check, all things considered. They did a really good job for the most part all game long. This defense was great. And Texas is going to see offenses that aren't nearly as talented as Ohio State. And the defense showed up and showed out, and I think that is going to continue to be a strength of this Texas football team. They say defense wins championships. You can't only have a defense, but the Texas defense, I think, is national championship level good. Number 2, reason for optimism, the run game. The Longhorns ran for 166 yards. You look at the last time that they played Ohio State back at the Cotton Bowl, Texas ran it 29 times for just 58 yards as a team. That was 2 yards per carry. And you look at the 3 losses that Texas had last year, it was a constant theme. They struggled to run the football. They averaged 1.1 yard a carry in both of the Georgia games. So the 2 against Ohio State was a little better than that, but obviously not good enough. Texas averaged 4.5 yards per carry against a really good Ohio State defense. I mean, maybe the best defense in college football. The Buckeyes were last year. They obviously looked really good this past weekend. Like, that's huge to see Texas run the ball as effectively as they did with a new look offensive line, 4 starters up front, and going up against that team on the road, a very positive for Texas and a bit of a surprise. I didn't think the Longhorns were going to be able to run as effectively as they did. If you told me before the game that Texas was going to go for 166 on 4.5 yards a carry, I would have told you Texas was going to win. So the run game was good enough to get the job done, and it was great to see C.J. Baxter back there. I mean, Trey Wisner, the lone returning 1,000-yard rusher in the SEC, we know he's good, and I thought he looked pretty good on Saturday, averaged 5 yards a carry. C.J. Baxter, 10 carries, also had 5 catches, so 15 total touches. Some good math right there. There's that Texas education coming in clutch. Great to see C.J. Baxter out there as well. And also Arch's legs. Arch struggled throwing the football. That's documented by everyone and their mother. Arch's legs are a weapon. That's going to help this run game all year long. We saw some good things in game 1. And again, you're not going to see too many teams as good as Ohio State. So reason to feel that this running game could put up even more numbers in the majority of the games that the Longhorns will play in the future. Number 3, referenced it a moment ago. I think my most pleasant surprise, this wasn't the best part of what Texas did on Saturday, but it was the most pleasant surprise, at least for me. I thought the offensive line fared pretty well, like much better than I expected. Again, the team you're playing at their house, it wasn't perfect. There are plenty of things to clean up. But again, you're able to run the ball the way you did against Ohio State. That's a good sign. I thought Arch Manning had plenty of clean pockets. I mean, he was only sacked 1 time. And that was a little bit of a coverage sack, right? And Arch holding on to the ball for too long, trying to step up in the pocket to take off and run. And he got sacked like a yard or 2 behind the line of scrimmage. Now, Trevor Gooseby was out there playing with like a lacerated hand. He had it all bandaged up. I thought he fared really well. Connor Stroh, who we didn't know was going to start the game until kickoff. We didn't hear anything about Connor Stroh until like last week. Comes out of nowhere. He played really well at left guard. Cole Hudson got the job done at center. DJ Campbell looked like DJ Campbell. He's the one returning starter from last season. Thought he was good at right guard. Brandon Baker, up and down game from him. Again, things for Texas to improve on. Brandon Baker's got a little bit of work to do. Obviously had a couple of false start penalties. You can't have those. I think he misread the last play of the game on offense for Texas, the 4th down from about midfield as the Longhorns are down by 7, trying to tie the game in the final minutes. There was a free rusher to Arch Manning that forced him to, rush the pass to Jack Endries, and Texas came up a couple of yards short. Looked like a Brandon Baker screw up there. So he's probably got the most to improve on. Again, the whole offensive line has things to work on. Red zone, short yardage situations, they've got to get meaner. They've got to get nastier. It's far from a finished product. Again, wasn't the best thing that Texas had going for them at the shoe, but that was my biggest question mark on this team going into this season. It's no longer my biggest question mark on this team after game 1. They held up much better than I expected. And again, considering the situation, he'll take it. Also, Neto Umeozulu came in and played a couple of series off the bench at left guard. He graded out pretty well as well. And then last but not least, I promised you four reasons for optimism for Texas. The schedule. Look, it's not an easy schedule, despite what anyone is going to try to say if Texas wins its next 5, 6, 7, 8 games, whatever. So I'm not sitting here telling you it's a bunch of cupcakes, but I am sitting here telling you I think there's only one team on the rest of the schedule that has the level of talent that Ohio State does, and that's Georgia. And you don't play them until mid-November. Now, Texas offenses, the way that they offensed, it was very offensive this past Saturday. They could lose some other games, but in terms of just sheer talents, there's not a lot of teams in college football that can match what Ohio State has right now. And again, I think there's only one on the Longhorn schedule for the rest of the regular season. So really, number 4 is you don't have to play Ohio State again. Well, maybe you'd like to play them again. I'll take a rematch in December or January. Obviously means Texas is in the playoff and probably a couple of rounds deep in the CFP, but you don't have a lot of Ohio States on the schedule this year. And that's a reason why you should be pretty optimistic about where Texas is, because they fared very well against teams not named Ohio State and Georgia in these last few seasons. So there you go. Those are 4 macro reasons for optimism for Texas. There are plenty more you can dive into. And again, of course, plenty that needs to get fixed up. But we're trying to be positive. We're trying to turn the page. The guys in that locker room have moved on to week 2. Time for us to move on to week 2 and the rest of the season as well. All right. Love to hear your thoughts. Comment below. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Have you changed your season predictions for Texas based on what you saw in Columbus? Coming up next, there's something that other teams do a lot. And I feel like most other teams do this a lot, but Texas really doesn't. And I'm not entirely sure why they don't. I'll tell you what it is, and we'll try to figure out what's going on next right here on Locked On Longhorns. Oh, but first, a word for our friends at Mazda. Mazda crafts cars for those who choose to do more than simply move. They follow what moves them every time they drive. And that's what makes Mazda stand out. They go beyond safety, style, and performance to deliver a driving experience that feels alive in every detail. I mean, you could feel it the moment you get behind the wheel, the smooth handling, intuitive controls, and standard all-wheel drive that they have in every crossover SUV. So whether it's a quick drive to practice or a long weekend road trip, Mazda makes every drive, even the everyday commute, feel special. It's the small details that make the big plays. Just like there's more to every player, there's more to the Mazda vehicle. It's Mazda. Move and be moved. All right, welcome back to Locked On Longhorns, your team every day. Hey, we've got a survey for you people. Yeah, you people. Check this out, lockedonpodcast.com/survey. We're trying to learn more about you, our listeners, and we're trying to find ways to make our favorite podcasts and your favorite podcasts even better. The best part, everyone who completes a survey will be entered for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. Anonymous survey, it's free. And again, entered for a chance to win one of 10 Amazon gift cards. All right, one thing that other teams do that Texas really doesn't. Texas doesn't trust freshman wide receivers. They don't. And it's hard to criticize too much of what Steve Sarkisian has done around here recently because of how good this team has been. Get back-to-back trips to the college football playoff semifinal. That ain't easy. Sark deserves a lot of credit for that. And look, you look at the wide receiver room as a whole, Texas has had some very good receiver play in these last few seasons. So don't get me wrong. The wide receiver spot has not been the biggest issue. It's been far from the biggest issue in Texas or at Texas since 2022. But I started to think, kind of watching this game unfold on Saturday and just seeing the lack of snaps that the Texas freshman wide receivers got against Ohio State, like outside of Xavier Worthy, who maybe only played as much as he did in 2021 in his freshman season because, well, the team was so bad. They just didn't have a lot of talent. They went 5-7 that year. Like, we haven't really seen a freshman wide receiver get significant playing time in the Steve Sarkisian era. Ryan Wingo was probably the closest thing last year, but he only started 3 games out of the 16 in 2024. And, you know, a lot of his reps probably happened because Isaiah Bond was banged up and because Jonte Cook left the program midway through the season. Like, I thought Wingo was really good last year. I thought he was good enough to log a few more snaps, and he had 29 catches. Like, again, he played a decent amount, but he didn't play as much as I thought maybe he could have, maybe he should have. And I think as much as some other coaches around the country would have played him as well. There's something that Coach Sark said in his Monday press conference that kind of caught my ear. You know, of the 4 freshman wide receivers that Texas signed in this top-ranked recruiting class, only one of them saw the field on Saturday. That was Dalen McCutcheon, who played all of 2 snaps. He had a first down catch in one of those snaps. So it's not like he went out there and screwed up or didn't do anything. He actually made a play when he was on the field. But that was it. Just those 2 snaps and 1 catch for Dalen McCutcheon, and nobody else in the wide receiver room got to play at all. Here's Steve Sarkisian on Monday when he was asked about that wide receiver room and what he's got there.
That room in particular, because there's so many new faces, you know, what the depth chart looks today might look different tomorrow, might look different the next day. We got to make that room highly competitive. And to your point, they have to earn our trust. After Dalen, the next receiver to go on would have been Ryan Niblett. I don't think any of those other guys were really ready for that moment against that secondary. That doesn't mean they won't be ready as we grow throughout the season, but that's where the work has to go in. That's where the commitment to doing things the right way and to earn our trust Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday to say, hey, this guy's ready to go play. Just because you had a good day today, that we don't anoint you the next guy in. You got to do it again the next day and the next day and the next day. And that's a process for a young player.
So there's Steve Sarkisian. A few things to unpack. Sark said that Ryan Niblett would have been the next wide receiver to play. Ryan Niblett, the guy who played running back last year, the guy who played defensive back earlier this year in the offseason. He's your next option at wide receiver? Like, I know Niblett was recruited as a wideout. That's his natural position. But I figured part of the reason why they've been moving him around so much is because he just wasn't good enough at wide receiver to stay there. So I hear that Niblett's the next guy, and I'm like, oh, he's better than Aaron Butler in year 2. And then you look at the other 3 freshman wide receivers. Khalil Lockett was a top 20 player in the country. He was the number 2 rated wide receiver in the class of 2025. Jamie French was a high 4-star. Michael Terry was a 5-star. Those are the receivers you signed, plus Dalen McCutcheon, who again did get to see the field a little bit. Like, I wonder if Steve Sarkisian is asking for too much from his young receivers. I get wanting to trust your players. Absolutely. That's important. You can't throw guys out there that you don't trust. I just wonder if Sark is requiring too much from his receivers to earn that trust. I mean, there are guys who are better game players than they are practice players. Some guys just need the chances, right? Just put them out there to show you what they can do. You know, in 2023, Texas had Xavier Worthy, A.D. Mitchell, and Jordan Whittington. 3 NFLers right there. Worthy a first-round pick and Mitchell a second-round pick. Like, that year, I get wanting to ride with those guys. Now, last year, you had Matthew Golden, a first-round pick. Isaiah Bond going into the season was one thing, but as the year progressed, I don't think he was the same thing. You know, Silas Bold, like, again, I feel like Ryan Wingo could have played more as a freshman last year. Maybe Parker Livingston could have played more as a freshman last year. So last year it was a little dicier, and I was a little more confused why none of these young guys are getting a bunch of reps. And then this year, you know, you only went and got 1 receiver from the portal, and he didn't even play on Saturday. That was Emmett Mosley the 5th. So the only receivers that you had with any college production going into Ohio State was Ryan Wingo and DeAndre Moore. Now, Livingston, your number 3, going into his redshirt freshman year, 0 career catches. Like, those are your guys. You couldn't get anyone else out there. And it's not like those receivers were winning all of their matchups all game long. I mean, Ohio State secondary got the better of the Texas wide receivers. And well, the Texas passing game, where they have 25 yards at halftime, not all on the receivers, of course. But again, it's not like the wideouts were just dominating and getting open on every play to where it's like we can't see what anybody else has. Like, I just look around the country and I see freshman wideouts put up huge numbers every year. And I don't think Texas has a Jeremiah Smith or a Ryan Williams in this class. But, like, it's not just those 2. I mean, Emmett Mosley, the transfer you got in, he was a true freshman at Stanford last year. Played a lot, put up great numbers. Like, you can go all over the country, every level, contenders, mid-tier teams, G5, whatever. You can find freshman wide receivers who play and put up significant numbers. I don't really see that at Texas. So, look, it's a long season. It is a long, long season. We're going to see the 4 freshmen play in these next 3 games. I have zero question about that. And maybe they play so well that they force Sark and wide receiver coach Chris Jackson's hands to get more playing time when we get to SEC play next month. But it's like, man, this was a really, really good wide receiver class that you brought in. 4 of the top 105 players in the country. And then the number 2 guy with Khalil Lockett. Like, I would like to see what those guys can do with meaningful snaps. I just, again, it takes a lot. We've known it for a while. It takes a lot to get in that circle of trust with Steve Sarkisian at wide receiver. I wonder if the rules are too tough to be at the cool kids table. Not sure. All right, something to monitor moving forward. We'll take your thoughts. If you're watching on YouTube, comment below. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? You think everything's just fine with the way Sark handles his receivers? All right, 1 segment to go. I've got 2 players that I don't think are getting enough love coming out of the Ohio State game that I do think are going to have huge seasons for the Longhorns the rest of the way. It's coming up next right here on Locked On Longhorns. But first, the NFL season is almost here. It kicks off tomorrow, and FanDuel is making sure that you are ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you're going to get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Yes, you heard that correctly. You bet $5. If your bet wins, about $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. You want to make the NFL season more exciting this year? You could do that with FanDuel, whether you're watching your team, whether you're watching Red Zone, whether you're keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup, whatever. This is quick. It's easy. It's the best way to add a little more energy to your Sundays, or for tomorrow, Thursday. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. And we're also brought to you by Monarch Money. Most people can't name their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. It's hard. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why Monarch Money exists. This is an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you because they do the heavy lifting for you. All of your accounts can get linked in minutes. Data visuals are right there. You get smart categorization of your spending. You can finally feel like you are in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. That's the best part. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com. You're going to get 50% off your first year. Again, monarchmoney.com. That's the website. The promo code LOCKEDONCollege, and you're going to get 50% off your first year. All right, final segment of a Wednesday edition. This is Locked On Longhorns, your team every day. We've got two players who impressed me in the loss to Ohio State that I'm really excited about in these final 11 regular season games, and hopefully a few games beyond that as well. We've got one on offense and one on defense. You know, there's not a lot of positive talk regarding the Longhorn offense following Saturday's showing, and it's pretty easy to see why. But there were a few guys who played well, and one of them was Jack Endries, the transfer tight end from Cal. I thought he fared very well in his Longhorn debut. 4 catches, which is the second most on the team, behind only C.J. Baxter, a running back, and the 50 receiving yards for Jack Endries led Texas on Saturday. The 30-yard grab that he hauled in on the final possession of the game, it's a great throw from Arch, but Endries took a couple of hits. He got sandwiched in between a couple of Buckeye defenders, and he was able to hold on. It was a great play. So he had 4 catches. He was open on about 4 or 5 more plays as well. This quarterback just didn't look his way. I was impressed by Endries in the passing game, and I also thought he held up really well in the run game too. You know, he wasn't regarded as a great blocker coming in, but his PFF run block grade in 2024 was the exact same as Gunnar Helms. And I thought Helm was solid. Like, he's no game changer out there. He's not George Kittle running over people out there. But I thought Gunnar Helm was a solid run blocker for Texas last year. That's what Jack Endries was at Cal, at least according to the folks at Pro Football Focus. But in the first game in 2025, I thought Endries blocked well. And so did his head coach, Steve Sarkisian. I believe it was Monday. He was asked about how Endries played, and he talked a little bit about, his receiving, but he also said, quote, "I was impressed with his blocking. We utilized him in the run game between counters and inserted him on linebackers, and he was more than capable of doing that," end quote. So praise from me. More importantly, praise from the head coach. Endries 6'4", 220, a post-spring addition. So he didn't get to practice with Texas in the spring, came in the summer, looked really good. He was obviously going to be this team's number 1 tight end. They didn't have a lot coming back from last year. That's a big part of it. But Endries, I was excited about the pickup when it happened. 2 great years at Cal. Last year, he had 56 catches for over 600 yards. He's got over 1,000 receiving yards in his career. I liked what I saw from him in game 1. I hope his role increases moving forward because I think he can definitely be a weapon. You're looking for ways to improve your red zone offense. I think he could be a positive there. So he's your offensive positive from game 1. On defense, plenty of guys you could choose from because there were plenty of bright spots from what the Longhorns did. But I'm going to go with the true freshman, Grayson Littleton, doing what he did in that atmosphere against those wide receivers in his first career college game. Incredible. And Ohio State went after him a couple of times in the first half. Like the first play, the first real test for Grayson Littleton, it was Jeremiah Smith he was going up against. And Jelani McDonald was the safety. It looked like he was also supposed to be in coverage there. McDonald slipped on the play. So it basically turns into a one-on-one. Best player in college football, true freshman DB. And Littleton was there stride for stride. And PBU at the last second. Like the coverage was incredible on that play. And then the very next play, Julian Sayin targets Brandon Innes, another 5-star receiver for Ohio State. Deep pass, opposite side of the field down the left sideline. Littleton's right there and makes a play on the ball, forces an incomplete pass. Unfortunately, that was your Colin Simmons hands to the face penalty. So, that snap didn't end up being a good one for Texas. But it wasn't because Grayson Littleton didn't do his job. Made a great play on Innes, stuck tight to him the whole way. And again, at the last second, broke it up. So back-to-back big plays. And Ohio State didn't really target Littleton that much after that. It went from, like, I'm sure Ryan Day and Brian Hartline saw 29 trot onto the field for the first time. And they're like, yep, there's the freshman. They think they can get away with this against us. Here we go. And it went from that to, well, maybe not. Like, maybe we should look a different way. Maybe we should attack somebody else instead. Grayson Littleton balled out, man. And Pro Football Focus gave him a grade of 86.6. That was the highest for any Longhorn defender. Think about how good the Texas defense was. Think about how many guys stepped up and made plays over the course of those 60 minutes. Nobody graded out better than the true freshman Grayson Littleton. I know I brought this up before, but I think it's worth bringing up time and time and time again. We're talking about the 9th highest rated recruit that Texas signed. He wasn't a scrub. He's a top 100 player in the country. I think a top 60 player in the country. So I'm not trying to turn this into like a walk-on type of Michael Taft story here. But there are a lot of more heralded dudes in this number 1 recruiting class that the Longhorns signed in 2025. Only 4 freshmen saw the field in game 1. None of them made more of an impact in their Longhorn debuts than Grayson Littleton. Michael Taft, speaking of Michael Taft, his All-American teammate in the secondary, he was asked about Grayson Littleton's first game, and he said, quote, "Yeah, he did amazing. He was calm and collected. His nerves weren't too high. He was just there to play," end quote. Yeah, he was. Yeah, he was. And I've been told that the coaches are testing Grayson Littleton this week. They're going after him a lot. So they're not letting the praise and what he did in game 1 get to his head. They believe that they've got something special with that young man. And after what we saw against the Bucs, it's hard to disagree. All right, that's going to do it for today's show. If you've made it this far, thank you very much. Number 2, please remember to like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment. Always love hearing from y'all. Your thoughts on anything we talked about and also suggestions for future episodes as well. Can't thank y'all enough for making Locked On Longhorns a part of your day. For your next listen, check out Locked On Bets. My man Lee Sterling and Kevin Rogers have you covered. Expert analysis, game picks, the lock of the day, your sports betting needs, and you get them filled up with Locked On Bets. Find them on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. More sound from the coaches and the players, but also we'll start to turn the page and preview this Saturday's tilt against San Jose State in tomorrow's episode. But that'll do it for today. Until next time, horns up, mic's off. We'll see y'all soon. This is Locked On Longhorns.